Good morning, afternoon, or evening, depending on when you're watching this. Welcome to class. So this is going to be a very short, let's call it a little short tutorial. I don't have anything actually to teach you in this tutorial, but I wanted to give you a little walkthrough of my workspace. Now, I'm not talking about my entire studio because that's a much larger and much more complicated thing, and if you want, I will go ahead and do something like that later, but for now I think that might be just a little too big. What I wanted to do is just show you how I lay out my desk, and I'm doing this from a different angle because typically I film from this angle up here, or I have another camera that comes across and I use my phone and kind of tie it up, and you know, it's a whole craziness going on. But I put the tripod right here and I film that way. And so the view you guys are getting is normally like a chopped up kind of smaller view. So what I want to show you today is just the general layout. I'm right-handed, so I have my paints on the right and my waters, which is like my go-to right hand, whereas my left hand is good for selecting other tools, things like eraser brushes, toothbrushes, pencils, pens. Obviously the brush themselves, the paint brushes, the big ones, the small ones. These are the extra ones that I don't use often, and normally they're behind me up here, but I had them down because I did a how-to brush tutorial recently. Typically they're up there, and I just have brushes I'm going to be using for the piece I'm working on. I like to have nuts. These are cashews and raisins and peanuts, and then I have my coffee. And I have this nifty little stand that is for my iPad, which I don't always use, but sometimes I like to put on a video or music or something, and I have my iPad, which is over on that side of the desk at the moment. So in the water world, I have 3 or 4 main waters. One is mostly empty. There's very little water in there. And the reason why this is mostly empty, and this is something I really like to do, I've never heard anyone else do it online per se, but it's a really awesome concept. So you keep an empty container, and then I have my little waters, which is my dirty, my clean, and an extra water. Say if I'm doing painting in rose color, then I would end up with a little rose colored water. So when I'm taking water, and maybe I don't always need clean water, but I just want to have one color, whereas if I'm using another color, that would go in the dirty and be easier to get rid of. So the reason why I have this container here is because if this gets too dirty, it simply gets dumped into there, and I will take something else, mix it around a bit, dump it again, and voila, okay. Then I can move ahead to my clean waters, my backup water, and now I can refill the ones that I need to use. Now, so my philosophy, so that becomes my super dirty water, which I change every day, but my philosophy is I can easily paint all day. The last thing I want to do is running back and forth to the sink in order to exchange my water. So that's why I have all these backup waters, and then I have a dirty water that I'm able to fill up and just have to do that. In the morning, I change it, or in the evening, that's good, and then this is already all good to go. I have a mixing brush, which I keep here. I like to keep a scrub brush in case I need to lift anything out. I do keep a stone on my desk, so if I lift out too much, I can rub the paper. I use the stone to rub the paper back in order to repress the paper back into position. I have these lovely, teeny, tiny little easels, which are so cute, and I think they were, a buck, maybe $1.50 or so, or €1.50 here. And these are fun too, so I can have these set up just to see, the piece I'm working on, or a little bit about what I'm doing in that way, because I do sketches, right? I do an enormous amount of pre-work, so my rough sketches, and I'll put a sketch up here, and then I'll be working, and I'll have an idea. And my rough sketch will say things like, this is supposed to be light, this is supposed to be dark, these, different colors I've decided I'm going to use. Maybe I'll have a whole set of rough sketches, so it depends how complicated the piece I'm working on is going to be. I have 2 lights, which I use normally at night. During the day I try to get the natural light coming in, and above me I have a 200-watt halogen light. It's halogen daylight. Now it's 200-watt output. It actually only takes something like 25 or 50 watt or something, so that's not bad. Otherwise, I have these lights too. If you were to come and paint with me, you'd be on that side of the desk. This is where we hang out. I do take 2 or 3 people here. We have a little bit more room if we can pull it out. I have the mirror mirror here because it reflects the light coming in from that window, which is actually a window door. And so when I pull the curtain back, I get the mirror, I get all that light. So I don't have to look directly out at the neighbors, but I kind of get this kitty corner look. And out there is all fields, my garden, chickens and the ducks and all that good stuff. Whereas this side of the house has the town. So by having these mirrors, I get more light, which also bounces around here, and it just makes the whole thing a little more friendly and comfortable. If I had my dream studio, I would have a full wall of windows and I would be working in the sun, in the windows all the time. I would have to do something about the UV because you don't want the UV to come in and mess up with your colors and your paints and your work. But if you're using professional high quality paint, that won't be an issue, only if, say if my kids were here and they're playing and painting with their student grade paints, and on their student grade paper, then over time, even over a few hours, having that sit in the sun, it could damage, it could lift out and actually like bleach the color from the paper, and then, you know, it's not going to be as beautiful or as vibrant or as brilliant as what they thought it was when they originally did it. So that is the layout of my desk. Somewhere in the middle, I have extra thingamajiggies here. Such as a potato, an apple, some seashells, a walnut. Over here behind me, can you guys see that? Over here behind me, this is a magnet board. It's a whiteboard. And it's covered in pictures. Now, the pictures over there are mostly things that are in the stages of being done or are just sketches that haven't been worked on at all. So that when I sit down, and this is something I really like to do, is when I sit down and, you know, if I have like painter's block and it's like, I don't know what to do, I can just turn and look at this board and I can grab anything off it and say, okay, let's work on this. Because when I was full of inspiration, I took my papers and I like to put them, I cut them into these little squares and put them in this little wooden box. And so I'll have inspiration while, let's say I'm watching TV downstairs, and I will be sketching and I'll just sketch out 5 or 6 of these tiny little sheets, 5 or 6 little outlines of different things, if it's fruit or flowers or people or my animals or whatever I feel like doing at the time, and then come up here and throw them on the board. That way when I don't know what to paint, I always have something I can work on. So I never end up with this problem where everything is completely done and I have no idea what to start with to continue. Behind me I have all of my tools, but I will go through that with you guys in a later a little short tutorial piece here. If you guys are actually interested in wanting to know what I have and what I use and why back there. Otherwise, you see it behind me in just about every other tutorial. So it's a whole bunch of boxes full of stuff. Also on my desk, I have my masks, so my Schminky and my Winsor & Newton masking fluid. And I have some Indian ink, some salt, some gum arabic, obviously a water spray bottle because I always spray everything down. And I have a tiny little garbage. This is just a little pot. It's like a little terracotta flower pot, which I really like. It doesn't have a hole in the bottom. And I use this to throw in wood shavings. These are little bits of charcoal. I make my own charcoal. I can totally show you guys how to do that. It's pretty cool. And anything that breaks or whatever, it all goes in here. Also, when I do lino cut, because I love doing lino cut, it's very relaxing. All the shavings for the lino cut will go in here. So it's really nice to have a little garbage on your table. I have a bar of soap on my desk. This is perfect. By now, you'll probably know why. Because I use the soap on my brush before I use the brush in the masking fluid so that I can always take the masking fluid off my brush. Check out my how to use masking fluid videos for more details on that, because if you don't know what you're doing, you could absolutely destroy your brushes. But if you do know what you're doing, you'll find that using masking fluid with soap is going to be a lot easier. You're going to get better lines, better details, and the whole mask part is going to be really beautiful. So it adds, you not only paint beautiful pictures, but you also paint beautiful masks, so you get gorgeous whites when you pull it off. Gummy eraser, that's for lifting my sketch. So once I've done my sketch, then I'll make this into like a snake and I'll roll it on top of my painting or on top of my sketch in order to lift some of those pencil lines. I want a tiny bit of the pencil line there, but I want to lift most of it out. Because the moment you put watercolor on top of a pencil, you're not going to get the pencil out again. And I'd say that's true for maybe 95% of all paints out there. Sometimes, I don't want to say it's an absolute because there's nothing that's really an absolute. There's a billion ways to do everything, but sometimes you might be able to get it off. I'd say good 95% of the time, it's not going to come off. And I have some really fun little things, like a super tiny pencil sharpener. I've got some 0.3 pencils, so they're really small, super small erasers. I'm saying a lot of ums here. What else? I've got this I use for scraping off the mask, but I'll show you guys that in a later video. And yeah, I think that's about it. That's my desk. Right side paints, left side everything else. Somewhere here I would have, oh yes, I have a towel. This is an old towel. It wasn't old when I started using it, and that wasn't very long ago. I've got a few of these. I will throw this into the wash. I will bleach it, and I will wash it on 90 degrees hot. And here in Germany, our washing machines run forever and ever and ever, and they're really quite amazing. So it'll come out perfectly white when I'm done. But it won't always, so again, please don't, if you're going to use your mother's towels, make sure that's an old one. Use something like a rag, would be perfect. So I have that here. That is for drying my brush, and I don't have to clean it often at all because it's not like paper towel that just gets destroyed and ruined and you want to throw it away. It dries really quickly and I can just keep going, so it's more environmentally friendly. I do use paper towel. There's a roll or two behind me over here, and I use that to lift when I'm lifting directly off my paper and I don't want my paper to be spoiled by, say, the dirt that's currently on my towel. I will use paper towel, but I do use that pretty sparingly, and I even keep them, so I will let the paper towel dry and kind of straighten it out again, fold it up and put it in the corner, because sometimes, you know, it's not actually ruined. You can use it over and over. So that's the layout of my desk. I hope you enjoyed, and I do want to see you in class, so bring your paints, your brushes, your paper, and be prepared to learn some fun techniques, and I'll see you in the next tutorial. Toodaloo!